looking for an Oscar for this music. Gospel choir with music from a soundtrack on the long list of Oscar nominations. It was written by Montrealer Lama Iken, and that is the Sunrise theme for the movie Winnie, about Winnie Mandela, starring Jennifer Hudson and Terrence Howard. And guess what? Laurent Iken, in fact, has 2 soundtracks on the Oscar long list. He's also nominated for this. Is part of the opening theme for Copperhead, which is a Canadian-American film directed by Ron Maxwell about the American Civil War. The northern opponents of the American Civil War were apparently known as Copperheads. So Laurent Iken, quite aware that he's on a long list of 114 scores. And for indie films, the competition is very fierce. But
for me, the best recognition is to be on that list for both soundtracks this year, which is very, very rare to have 2 soundtracks at the same time. So, I take it, for me, it's my little moment of recognition and pleasure. I don't have big expectation because the race is very tough.
So I talked to him from his recording studio in Los Angeles. He's just finished scoring the latest Nicolas Cage action movie. He's working on another action film with Vincent Cassel. It was in Black Swan. It came as somebody who first got recognition here in Quebec for the score of the Quebec movie Maman et Chez le Coiffeur, that film by Leah Poole. And all his other work it's just been like somebody listened to that and hired him on another film, and that person listened to that and hired him for Winnie, and it just kind of moves along. So I asked him about the road of travel since I first spoke to him about Maman et Chez le Coiffeur several years ago.
Well, it has been an amazing, beautiful journey, and talking about that, just 2 days ago, I had fans from Taiwan, and I didn't even know that people could know my music over there, that, ordered from Canada Maman et Chez le Coiffeur, the soundtrack, and Copperhead, and, asked me if I would consider to go in Taiwan to do concert about the music that I've been doing on movies, but Leah Poole gave me a beautiful movie to work with, and the soundtrack was, at that time very, very, very successful, and it's a beautiful journey, and I feel very humble to be able to have moments like that.
And this is music from the soundtrack of Maman et Chez le Coiffeur. So keeping our fingers crossed for Laurent Iken to get on the short list, move along from 114 to the short list of Oscar nominations. And I'll put a link up to his website on our Facebook page.
Jeanette, thank you very much. Before 8 o'clock, breaking political news here in Quebec this morning. There are several reports that Daniel Payet, the leader of the Bloc Québécois, will announce his resignation later today at a news conference that's now been scheduled for 1:30 this afternoon. Now, we have been in touch with his people who won't confirm the report, but they are not denying it. They say that the announcement this afternoon will have to do with his health and la permanence du bloc. So it is looking like Daniel Payet will no longer be the leader of the Bloc Québécois. We'll have a confirmation of that this afternoon. Daniel Payet, leader of the Bloc Québécois, breaking news this morning. Looks as though he is stepping down from that position. 5 minutes now before 8 o'clock, time for Daybreak Sports with Ainsley McLeod.
Well, Mike, the Habs did make that trek back from New York in the wee hours of Sunday morning after their Saturday night game, but from the way that they were playing on the ice, you might be forgiven for thinking that they had actually just missed their flight and not shown up at all.
La rondelle est revenue directement pour les Panthers.
2 minutes in the second, all the Panthers needed. And on the Habs side, in terms of offense, you can see that they were struggling. Alex Galchenyuk had the lone goal in the third, but really that is the exception that proves the rule that, the fact that they had the one goal, are all excited about that, means that there's been a bit of a drought there. And while he gives a nod to the fatigue theory, Alex Galchenyuk was not making any excuses after the game.
Just, to be honest, not scoring goals. Yeah, I mean, we played last night and today played at 6, but there was definitely no excuses. And we gotta come up aggressive. And we're giving credit, they come out pretty good, pretty hard, and we're a good team today. And we gotta battle harder and a little bit more compete level.
Well, not scoring goals seems like a fair diagnosis of the problem as far as it goes.
But then you go back one step further. What is actually causing that? Why are they not producing offense? Michel Therrien really is sticking to that fatigue theory, saying his team is exhausted after a number of games in the past 3 weeks, and he didn't appreciate the suggestion that the Habs aren't working hard enough.
Vraiment, j'aime pas ta question. We played 11 games in less than 3 weeks. Energy-wise, I could tell they're drained, and when you're drained, there's no more juice, and you're tired, your execution's not quite there, you take bad decision mentally. They're human beings, they're good athletes, but they give what they got.
And he described it at one point as squeezing a lemon, that there was nothing left, no juice left in that lemon. Still, you got to question. Yeah, and really not appreciating that comment off the top.
That's what he said.
But can you blame it all on fatigue is the question, because if you look back over all of that period, the Habs are having a lot of trouble on the power play. For example, Alex Galchenyuk's goal broke a 0 for 16 slump on the power play in Saturday's game. Even though they did eke out the win in overtime, no goals in regulation, just the one from Pacioretty in overtime. So hopefully a good night's sleep will go a long way for them before they face the Coyotes. One other note, Michel Therrien did have a comment on the status of George Parros, who had taken a fist to the chin in a fight in the opening 2 minutes of Saturday night's game, ended up going off for concussion monitoring, and it's confirmed he does have a concussion and is day-to-day.
Again. So he has just come back from another concussion that is not good.
So you have to wonder what the future's going to for him.
Ainsley, thank you very much. It's 2 minutes before 8 o'clock. We have the latest Montreal news right now with Christy Snell and some breaking news.
That's right, but Bloc Québécois leader Daniel Paillet is gathering reporters this afternoon in Montreal. He'll be discussing his political future, and he is expected to announce that he's stepping down for health reasons. We'll have more for you at 8:30 as well. The city of Montreal has begun its snow removal operations. Those are expected to last all week. Workers are clearing 10,000 kilometers of roads and sidewalks in the city. Jay Turnbull is out in NDG and joins us live. Jay?
Because with anywhere from 25 to 35 centimeters of snow having fallen in the city, Montrealers have their work cut out for them. Many people are digging out yesterday, but I'm seeing a lot of lumps of snow on the side streets, and I'm presuming that underneath those piles are people's vehicles. I'll keep you updated on the big dig at 8:30.
CBC reporter Jay Turnbull. And the snow isn't the only headache for people heading through the Plateau neighborhood this morning. Sherry Okeke is at the intersection of Saint Joseph and Saint Denis and joins us with details on that. Sherry?
The westbound side is closed at Saint Denis, and that's not just affecting drivers, but also commuters who rely on the bus. The number 51 bus that normally stops here is canceled for now. I'll have more at 8:30.
CBC reporter Sherry Okeke. And we'll have these stories and much more at 8:30. Mike?
Over on the Laurentian Autoroute southbound, as you're making your way down towards the Gédéon-Ouimet Bridge, it fills in just ahead of that point. It is rather cold out there this morning, so wet roads are becoming very slippery roads. There are also snow-covered roads in certain areas as well. 440 east, just around Boulevard des Laurentides. Watch out for a new left lane accident through there. 40 east heavy Cavendish to Décarie. Met west is thick from Anjou to Décarie. That stall, however, at P9 has just been cleared.
Very cold this morning, minus 19 at the airport with the wind, feels like minus 31.
This is World Report. Good morning. From CBC News, I'm David Coleman. A growing number of middle-class Canadians may not have enough money to retire with, and that's prompting an urgent call for action. Finance ministers from across the country meet today to talk about the future of the Canada Pension Plan. Hike in premiums, so the money will be there in future years.
We know that middle-income class earners are most at risk right now, and that means enhancing CBP to some degree to protect our workers and our retirees, because that social impact is going to be substantive for the years to come.
But Jim Flaherty, the federal minister, isn't convinced of that. Susan Lund reports.
The federal finance minister arrived at the dinner last night with his Ontario counterpart in the back seat. The two men may have shared a ride, but they don't share the same view on what to do with the CPP. Jim Flaherty doesn't believe now is the time to enhance the CPP, while economic growth is still fragile.
Because it's basically a payroll tax that's paid by people who work and by their employers.
Charles Sousa thinks otherwise. The Ontario finance minister is pushing for an agreement today to boost CPP premiums to give higher payouts in the future.
Over 50% of Ontarians do not have a pension plan. They're going to be fully reliant on CPP and OAS just to provide for them, and that at $12,000 a year is insufficient.
There are provinces, including Saskatchewan, that agree with Flaherty that any change now could halt economic growth. Flaherty says the problem is really with a small percentage of the middle class that haven't put enough money away, so he will suggest a more targeted solution.
You don't want to use a bazooka, to go after a specific issue.
The ministers will discuss this later today after they get an update on the worldwide economic outlook from the Governor of the Bank of Canada. Susan Lund, CBC News, Ottawa.
Well, Ontario and Quebec got slammed with snow over the weekend, but the Maritimes got it much worse. Parts of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and PEI got hit with up to 30 centimeters of snow yesterday.
16 décembre 2013, on vous souhaite un très bon matin, Montréal. Donc, 8h02, 8 minutos de la mañana.
8:02 a.m. in English.
8:02 minutos da manhã.
E le 8:02 di la mattina in italiano.
Et sur les ondes du 106.3 CKIM, Skin FM, vous êtes à l'antenne bien sûr de l'International.
Veille tropicale avec Danny et Tracy.
On vient d'entendre le son de Elvis Crespo. Donc, Suavemente, c'était un grand succès, mais également cette chanson, Tu Sonrisa, qui veut dire ton sourire. Alors, 1988, c'est tiré du même album que la chanson Suavemente de Elvis Crespo. C'était également précédé par du grand Bob Marley, Could You Be Loved, 1980, signé donc, il a signé ce succès, Monsieur Marley. Et puis également Carlinhos Brown avec Maria Caipirinha, succès de l'année 2008. Aujourd'hui, c'est les lundis classiques du réveil tropical. Vous voulez connaître les noms des artistes, les noms des chansons qu'on vous fait jouer chaque matin, vous allez chercher donc le tout sur le mur de notre Tropipage Facebook, Réveil tropical. Vous pouvez nous chercher les chansons là également via Danny et Tracy. Et météo pour ce matin, Tracy.
Aujourd'hui, on verra une alternance de soleil et de nuages, de la poudrerie par endroits ce matin. Les vents seront présents de 30 à 50 km/h. Et les températures stables après de moins 17, refroidissement éolien de moins 29. Que de plaisir. Pour ce soir et cette nuit, le ciel sera dégagé, les vents de 20 km/h et un minimum de moins 20. Demain, mardi, on prévoit du temps couvert avec de la neige débutant en journée, accumulation de 2 à 4 cm et les vents seront présents de 20 à 40 km/h, maximum demain de moins 10. Présentement, on a du soleil, il fait moins 19 degrés, mais ne pensez pas dans le réveil tropical à Montréal, là, parce que c'est vraiment pas les mêmes températures. On a du soleil, oui, mais il fait moins 32 avec le facteur de refroidissement éolien.
Mais ce n'est que du mental, chers auditeurs. Oui. Tout est dans la tête, alors.
Non, mais...
La plage, vous sortez là, vous voyez de la belle plage, là, vous voyez donc les palmiers, écoute les cocotiers, le Tropi Barman qui vient t'apporter un beau petit drink.
Oui.
C'est bon, et puis les moins là, on laisse ça de côté, on est dans le plus là, tout est dans le mental. Tout est dans le mental. Et également, donc au niveau du sport, les Canadiens donc qui jouent en fin de semaine.
Oui, samedi, le Canadien qui a gagné contre les Islanders 1-0 en prolongation à New York. Ils sont de retour, ils sont revenus au bercail. Mais ils se sont inclinés 2-1 face aux Panthers de la Floride hier soir au Centre Bell.
Aux Panthers?
Aux Panthers.
OK.
Planters. Alex Galchenyuk semble avoir été le seul à marquer en temps réglementaire. La prochaine partie du Canadien aura lieu demain soir alors qu'elle accueillera les Coyotes de Phoenix.
Et au niveau donc du foot, on parle du Brésil parce qu'il y a eu 2 autres décès sur le chantier du stade des Manaus au Brésil. Encore un autre drame.